This is the Education Business Podcast for all founders and business owners in the education sector. This podcast is for you if you have an education business or you're thinking about starting one. That could be tutoring, publishing, holiday clubs. It really doesn't matter. You're in business and you're also in education. But most of all, you're focused on improving outcomes for children in the way you know best, through your business. I'm Claire Riley, co-founder of educational resources website Classroom Secrets, and I'll be sharing how to make your education business bigger, better, and have more impact through my own experiences and also the conversations I have with other founders and business owners in education. The Education Business Podcast is sponsored by Classroom Secrets, helping you to support your children's learning. Do you ever get annoyed because people expect too much or they ask too much? It's like, they don't have a good handle on what's acceptable. That's usually to do with boundaries. And we're so good sometimes at blaming other people and saying, why do they not respect my boundaries? But maybe you haven't set them. Maybe you've not been clear with them what your boundaries are. So it's always a good thing to think about the boundaries that you have in place. Test for them in your life. Think about what's happening in your life and how things are playing out. If things aren't going the way you want and somebody's always overstepping the mark, it could be that you need to do a bit of boundary work and then you can reinstate those boundaries. As with everything, when I bring information to you, it's always coming from experience of some kind. And it's been brought up again because I've talked to another founder or I've remembered something. And one thing I was reminded of the other day was my really poor boundary setting way back when I started tutoring. So you'll probably find this story quite amusing. You also might be able to relate to it, I don't know. But safe to say, I have got better at setting boundaries over time. Let me take you back to 2012. I'm tutoring from our home. And at the time, our neighbour had a young son in primary school. And they asked me about tutoring because I was a tutor. And I said, well, he's a bit young for my kind of tutoring at the moment because I was just Key Stage 2. But I gave some examples of some websites that he could go on to help him. And that was that. A couple of days later, the mum comes out and says, oh, we don't have the internet though. So he can't do those websites. So immediately, I jump into problem-solving mode. I'm such a nice person. I said, well, that's fine. I could put the Wi-Fi on his iPad, because she had her iPad in her hand, from our house. Oh, okay then, she says. So she hands me the iPad. I put in our Wi-Fi password and connect it to our Wi-Fi. And I'm thinking, how long is this going to go on for? Because she'd also made out like she was going to be getting the internet soon. It seemed like she was going through a period of time where maybe they were changing over the internet. So I wasn't totally stupid. Anyway, so that happened. And the weeks went by and I'm thinking, they're still using my internet on the iPad. It did frustrate us a little bit. But I thought, just leave it, Claire. Don't rock the boat, especially as a connecting house. Anyway, a couple of months later, even though by then surely they should have had the internet, she comes out and asks if she can have the Wi-Fi password so that she can put another device on it. I was like, what? Obviously, I had no boundaries, so I gave it to her because she was scary. And I didn't want the conflict, so I gave it to her. Next thing we know, the internet's stalling for us. They must have put it on like an Xbox or something, and it's on... Oh, just telling you this story is funny. They must have been streaming things on the games. We don't game, so I don't know, but what I do know is it takes up a lot of bandwidth or something like that. Anyway, Ed said, I've had enough now. So he changed the password, and that was that. Nothing else was said. I remember giving a new password to all of my tutees and all of the tutees' parents, because sometimes they'd wait in the lounge, and nothing was ever said. And I was a bit worried about the backlash, but it was fine. She never said anything. But listening to that story, any normal person would say, that was a terrible boundary. You did not put your boundary in place. And you're absolutely right, I didn't. But sometimes it's easy for us to listen to stories that someone else tells and say, oh, they had no boundaries. But when it comes to ourselves, we forget. We don't think about the things that we're doing that then allow or cause someone else to act in the way that they're acting. I think this is particularly prolific in tutoring, which happened to me when I was a tutor, even though it was only slightly related. But the idea from somebody that, oh, you're going to help me one-to-one and you have to do whatever I would like you to help me with, that kind of attitude doesn't always help us as business owners, because at the end of the day, that's what we are. Even if we're still a solopreneur tutoring and we haven't decided to grow a team, or we haven't grown a team yet, we're still business owners. And, you think some of the things that maybe we're asked to do, nobody would ever dream of going to ask Primark for. They wouldn't. So we have to get really good at flexing the boundary muscle and being able to set those boundaries for ourselves very kindly, very firmly, and in a friendly way, but being very clear about what we will and won't expect. And what tends to happen, and will probably happen in the same way for you, or has happened in this way, is something happens and then we have to put something in place to counteract that as well. As you move forward, you get better at foreseeing what could happen, or getting a handle of why other companies who are further ahead might do things in a certain way. And generally it's because they've experienced that as well. And so you can always look ahead to figure out what boundaries you should put in place. So I hope that this has been just a little reminder to just assess your boundaries. Even if you feel like things are going well, it's not a bad thing to just reassess. Are people acting in the way that I would like them to act? And what is my role in that? What can I change to get other people to react or act in a different way? Thank you for listening to the Education Business Podcast. This podcast is sponsored by Classroom Secrets. To find more resources to grow your business, visit classroomsecrets.co.uk.